we're going to work on section 5.8, and it is called Solving Equations. Solving equations with multiplying and dividing. Okay, so let's review here quick. If I have 5x equals 20, to figure out what x equals, I'm going to divide both sides by 5, divide by 5, so I will have 1x on this side, and 20 divided by 5 is 4, so x would equal 4. Okay, because remember, when I have a number right next to a variable, that means there's an invisible multiplication sign between them. We don't want to write that multiplication sign in because it's just a waste of our time. So we just have to know that that's there. So then I would use my opposite of multiplying, which is dividing, to both sides, and then I can get my answer. Let's try one more review. If I have x over 2 equals 8, this is really saying x divided by 2 equals 8. So to do I need to do the opposite sign. Opposite of dividing by is multiplying by 2, multiplying by 2. So x equals 16. Okay, and again, these are very simple ones. We are going to be doing fractions today. So it's not going to be quite that simple, but we've been working on fractions. That when you add and subtract, you need a common denominator. When multiplying and dividing, no, you don't. All right, so let's go through some problems. Okay, so number 1 says 3/4 x equals 9/16. Okay, so I need to divide by 3/4, divide by 3/4 from both sides. Because I have 3/4, remember when I said there's a number next to a variable, there's a little invisible multiplying sign in between them. Okay, so if I divide both sides by 3/4, I would get x on this side, 1x, because 3/4 divided by 3/4 is 1. Let's check that out. Okay, so then I would flip my second one, 3/4 times 4/3. Okay, those would cross out to make 1. Those would cross out to make 1. So my answer would be 1. Okay, so I have 1x on this side. But remember, we don't need to write that 1x there because if we have an x, we know that there's one of them. Okay, now I have 9/16 divided by 3/4. So I'm going to flip my second one. I'm going to have 4/3. Change my dividing sign into a multiplying sign. And I have 9/16 on the left side. Okay, now I'm going to multiply across. I can divide this by 4 and get 1. Divide this by 4 and get 4. I can divide this by 3 and get 3. I can divide this by 3 and get 1. So my answer is x equals 3/4. Because if I multiply 3 by 1, I'd get 3. If I multiplied 4 by 1, I'd get 4. Sorry, this is not a negative sign. It's an arrow. It's positive 3/4. All right, so let's try another one. Okay, number 2 says -3/8 k equals 1/2. Okay, so remember there's that little invisible multiplying sign in between the negative 3/8 and the k. So I'm going to divide both sides by -3/8. Okay, so a negative divided by a negative is a positive. 3/8 divided by 3/8 would be 1. So I'd be left with k on the left side. So now I have to figure out what 1/2 divided by -3/8 equals. Okay, so I'm going to, I should have written that smaller. 8/3 divided by, or times 1/2, negative, sorry. 1 times -8 is a -8. 2 times 3 is a 6. Okay, now I'm going to simplify here. Divide by 2, divide by 2, I would get -4/3, or -1 1/3. So we'll go with that. -1 1/3. Okay, let's try. We've got 6 to do total, so we've got 4 more left. Okay, for number 3, we have 2 2/3 E equals 1/18. 1/18. There we go. Okay, so first I'm going to circle up. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 more is 8/3 E equals 1/18. Okay, so again I'm multiplying. So I'm going to divide both sides by 8/3. Divide by 8/3. Okay, so now let's solve that. On this side I'm going to have an E equals. So if I do 1/18 divided by 8/3, I'd find the reciprocal of the second number. So I would have 3/8, change my dividing sign into a multiplying sign, and keep my 1/18. Okay, so on the top I'm going to have the number 3. Actually, before I go on, I saw that I could reduce before I multiply, because I really don't want to multiply 8 and 18, because I feel like I could make a mistake by accident. Okay, so if I divide this by 3, divide this by 3, I would get 6 and 1. So I'd get 1 on the top. On the bottom I'd have 6 times 8 is 48. So my answer is 1/48. All right, there we go. That was much easier than multiplying 8 times 18. So I'm glad that I reduced before I multiplied instead of after I multiplied. Okay, number 4 says -3 4/7 x equals 0. Okay, well, I'll circle up for the fun of it. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 4 more is -25/7 x equals 0. Okay, so if I divide both sides by -25/7, divide by -25/7, well, 0 divided by -25/7 is going to always be 0. So our x is going to equal 0, which makes sense because -3 4/7 times 0 would give us our answer of 0. So, I'm glad we had an easy one there. All right, number 5 says -1 2/7 times m equals 6. Okay, so I'm going to circle up. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 2 more is 9/7. Don't forget your negative. M equals 6. Okay, so I'm going to divide both sides by -9/7. Divide by -9/7. And I'm going to go on a little tangent here, you guys. Okay, because a lot of times I teach you step by step. This is how I want to see it. I want to see first, you converted your mixed number into an irrational number. Irrational number? Improper, there we go. Improper number. Okay, so first you change it into an improper fraction. And now you're showing me what you're going to do to both sides. Instead of multiplying, you're dividing both sides by that number. Then I want you to just show me your work. So then you'd have m equals, so if I have 6 divided by -9/7, I always like to put a 1 over it so we don't get mixed up. We don't put the 6 on as a denominator. We need the 6 as a numerator. Okay, so then I'm going to flip. So I have 7 over -9. Again, does it matter if the negative's on the bottom? No. because that still is going to be a negative number. If there were two negatives, then that would be a problem, because now this is a positive number. But there's only one negative. Now I'm going to change my equals, or my dividing sign into a multiplying sign. Keep my 6/1 the same. Okay, well, I'm going to divide, or I'm going to reduce before I multiply. Divide by 3, I'd get 2. Divide by 3, I'd get -3. Okay, so 2 times 7 is 14. Over 1 times a -3 is a -3. Now I have to ask myself, how many times can 3 go into 14? Well, I know 3 times 5 is 15, so it's not going to be 5. It's probably going to be a -4. Okay, so 3 goes into 14 4 times, which is 12. So 14 minus 12, I've got 2 left over, so 2/3 is my answer. -4 and 2/3. Now here's something I want to talk about. Here my negative was on the denominator. So could I write this as 4 and 2 over -3? That just looks kind of silly. So if ever we have a negative sign anywhere in our fraction, we're always going to take that negative sign, we're going to bring it to the front and put it for our whole number. So make sure you don't give me an answer that looks like this, because that just kind of looks a little silly. All right, now let's go work on our last one. Okay, for number 6 it says 10 over 11n equals 2 over 11. Okay, so again, we're multiplying. I'll give you actually another one that we have to divide and then we multiply, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide both sides by 10/11. Divide by 10/11. Okay, so on this side I'd get an n equals. Then I have 2/11 divided by 10/11. Again, find the reciprocal of the second number, so I would get 11/10 times 2/11. Okay, so my 11s would cross off and make 1. My 2 could cross off if I divided by 2 and make a 1. Divide by 2 and make a 5. So my answer, 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 5. 1 times 5 is 5. So my answer is 1/5. All right, let's do one more because I want to do one where you'd have to divide. Where we are dividing and you'd have to multiply. Okay, so this is 7, one that I made up. So let's say it's n over 7 equals 3/4. Okay, so right now I have n divided by 7. So I'd have to multiply both sides by 7. Okay, so now I would have the number, I'd be left with n on this side. And then I would have 3/4 times 7 over 1. Okay, 3 times 7 is 21/4. So I'd say, how many times can 4 go into 21? Well, it can go in there 5 times. I'm left with 1 left over because 4 times 5 is 20, and I have 21. So that would be 5 1/4. So that one's considerably easier because we're not dividing fractions and that sort of thing, because we would have that whole number right there. So that is all that I have for you today. We have section 5.9 and then review and a test. So please, please, please make sure that if you have any questions at all, that you come in and ask them. Because I really would hate for this test to go bad, being as it is the second quarter. So you are starting fresh. So you need to start working hard, if you haven't been already, so that your grade can go up. Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in class.